Kleinman and Rothkopf. Mo Kleinman and Louis Rothkopf had been members of the old Mayfield Road mob in Cleveland, with Mo Dalitz and Sam Tucker. In the late 1940s, Dalitz, Kleinman, Rothkopf, Tucker, and Thomas Jefferson McGinty operated the most powerful gambling syndicates in the nation. When Dalitz opened the Desert Inn Casino in Las Vegas in 1950, Tucker, Kleinman, and Rothkopf were with him. On paper, Dalitz was the treasurer and secretary of the Desert Inn. Kleinman, the one-time prizefighter, was vice president, and Sam Tucker was on the board of directors, and McGinty was the casino's major stockholder. Each of the men owned at least 10 to 12% of the Desert Inn stock. The actual owners of the casino were Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, Lungi Zwillman, and a slew of lesser partners, including the New England Mafia. Rothkopf and Pittsburgh Hemi Martin were suspected of murdering William E. Potter, a Cleveland city councilman, on February 3, 1931. In fact, Martin was tried for the murder and was convicted. He won a retrial, however, and was acquitted. By 1951, aside from being vested in the Desert Inn, Kleinman and Rothkopf owned a series of in and around the Ohio-Kentucky area casinos, including the Mound Club, the Pettibone Club, the Jungle Inn, the Beverly Hills Club, and the Lookout House. On Monday evening, March 26, 1951, the televised Kefauver hearings into organized crime grilled New Jersey gangster Abner Zwillman, and then called Cleveland gangsters Morris Kleinman and Louis Rothkopf to be interviewed. Kleinman and Rothkopf were two of 65 known Cleveland-based criminals subpoenaed by the committee, including two other leaders of the old Cleveland syndicate, Mo Dalitz and Sammy Tucker. Rothkopf was called first. The committee wanted to know about his extensive illegal gambling interests in Ohio, Kentucky, Florida, and Las Vegas. The gangster was in a sour mood and began reading a prepared statement that he undoubtedly wrote himself. "I am not an actor," he said, "and have had no public speaking training. I would be much like an amateur appearing at a disadvantage in front of you who have become like professional." Newspapers said this was bigger than the World Series. A cartoon in the Cleveland Press suggested that my television debut might replace Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, referring to a very popular children's television show. He continued, "From newspapers, I can demand a retraction or sue for libel. I cannot check on what is happening to me on television or radio. If the television industry wants me to boost their sales, I am entitled to be consulted. This is a violation of my constitutional rights. I will not perform to help TV. I will not proceed further until this apparatus is shut off and removed." There was a very long pause, but Senator Kefauver finally asked, "We couldn't find you in Cleveland. If we had, you wouldn't have been exposed to this. Do you want the television shut off?" "I want everything off," Kleinman barked, and Kefauver directed that the cameras be turned away from the gangster. Since the committee had been trying to serve both Kleinman and Rothkopf for over a year, the senators asked Kleinman where he had been, a reasonable question, but he refused to answer. He then refused to acknowledge that he had been convicted of income tax evasion in 1933 or that he was released from Lewisburg Federal Prison in September 1936 after having served 3 years. He refused to answer any of the next 5 questions tossed at him. Finally, Kefauver said, "Let the record show that the witness is silent." Senator Charles W. Toby shouted at Kleinman, "You sat right there behind the other witness for an hour and a half, and you never blinked. Then you come up here, and as soon as questions are asked of you, you quail before the lights. It makes me sick to see you try to put up this bluff. Good Lord, no honest man would do that. Before we're through, sir, you'll come to the bar of justice." Rothkopf testified next and read a statement which, basically, repeated what Kleinman's statement said. Rothkopf too refused to answer questions and was arrested. A few days later, both Kleinman and Rothkopf and 10 others were cited for contempt of Congress for refusing to answer the crime committee's questions. Both convictions were later overturned in court.